Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Unveiled Voices. And I'm one of your hosts, as usual, Anifah. And here with me is.
Mariam. Hi everyone, welcome back. You know this thing people do on Instagram where they do 1/2 of Kiniko, 2/2 of Kiniko. Who is 1/2?
Guilty as
Oh,
charged.
you do that too. Actually, I've not checked
It's
your
on
mind.
my Twitter, so you definitely see
What did you
one
put?
of.
So you are one
Ah,
to me, I'm two over.
I'm always number one to myself. And you can also be 1/2. 1/2 plus one over
About
two is
is one. Okay. Valid, valid.
yeah.
Yeah, welcome back to another episode of Unveiled Voices. We
Mhm.
trust that you had a wonderful week and you have listened to the last episode because the last episode was really good and we really also got good feedback from people on how they could relate to that and like if they could go back in time, like some of the advices kind of resonated with them and also like the journey and the growth process was also kind of like similar to them. How was your week other than that, Anifah?
Other than what?
Other than every other thing.
Because other than that, were you talking about like the release of the last episode and like the response?
Yeah. Like, was there any major beam that happened in the week?
You know what? This week I kept consistently going to work earlier. So I went to work 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I went to work like an hour before the start time. And most people that I would meet in the office were meeting me and they were like, "Oh, what's going on?" I was like, maybe it's a New Year thing. Maybe it's a New Year resolution. So I was like, New Year resolution in
October.
October. I move when I want to move, blah, 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 blah. Um, so yeah, I think getting to work earlier just to complete some things, it was really good. I'm probably going to continue it this week.
Mm.
Although it didn't quite achieve the intended effect of finishing stuff, but what it means is also that I can go home a lot earlier. Um, I don't know those of you that live in London and take TFL. Like last week was horrible for certain lines. Like literally for District Line, Elizabeth Line,
Mm.
some certain lines had a lot of like delays. And me, I was already at work when I would see people text on Slack that oh something is going on with Elizabeth or this. And I'm like, well, probably going to work early.
Early bird catches the what?
Honestly, like I'm not a morning person, but last week was like, maybe I can get it. As long as nobody talks to me, it's fine. It's fine. Apart from that, like you and I had that meeting yesterday. How was that? How
Yeah,
was the
that was
strategy?
good. It was supposed to be 1 hour and it ended up being almost entire day because from brunch we went back to my house and it was
Yeah,
another one again. So yeah.
honestly, like guys, if you can help me, just live close to your friends because I feel like if I had not followed you, like that I say, I wouldn't have been able to pinpoint like
What
anything. Yesterday I was happy because I wasn't even talking to you for the most part. I was just chatting
exactly.
with you. We're just talking about career
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And for me, like my career is very important to me, and any opportunity to talk to people, who have different perspectives is like, oh, wow, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And it's funny because for me, like, there's a common thread in all of my friends of like, there's something they want me to do, and it's like, why am I old enough of doing this? Anyway, check again in a few months. Maybe I would have done that thing. I really need to share. But yeah, really lovely week to be honest. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
What about you? Outside of the
Yeah, I mean last week was just there. So it's ramping up to I know I always say busy season, but like this is the actual busy season of the year. So like this is the yearly budget planning thingy in finance. So last week was ramping up to that. So at least from next week till like end of November is going to be like planning season literally. So I
mm,
think I was just trying to get my try to get my things together and everything I would need to just make life easy for me at least in the next 1 month thereabout. Yeah, so it was good. I mean, yeah, I think the brunch thing was like an highlight of my week. So
Yeah, I apart from the podcast itself, we had a few things to catch up on, and
We did not start with podcast, even though that was the name of the
honestly, like
week.
even the first time around we did this because coincidentally the place where we talked about, oh, we want to do this podcast
Mm,
was what I was thinking. It was the same exact
yeah.
place. Even though I tried to get us to go somewhere else, but that didn't work out. And so for me, it's like even then we didn't start with the podcast. We started, I think, catching up,
Hmm.
and then we did the podcast. So I mean, face to face time is always
Yeah,
valuable.
because you would think we had not like spoken since like forever,
But
but we
literally chat.
exactly. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that was an highlight for me. So let's see.
Great. So today we are going to be talking actually to our parents this time around. So think of this like episode as like a heartfelt letter to our parents. We want to, reflect on the relationship we had with them growing up
Hmm.
and how that dynamic has sort of evolved. There are some things that were unspoken when we were younger and some lessons, some things we wanted to tell them then we couldn't tell them we're going to open that kind of worms now. And really, like, overall, this conversation is going to be really about the fact that we see our parents in a different light than we used to when we're younger, and also acknowledging the ways that they have shaped us into being the unique people we are today,
Hmm.
right? Um, and so let's get into it. What exactly was like your relationship growing up with your mom? Let's start with your mom because I think it's always an interesting one, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was your typical. So I grew up in your typical Yoruba
Mhm.
household. Yeah, I would say we're
Because I don't know what is
Yoruba.
Yoruba.
Yeah, Yoruba is like a tribe in Nigeria. So I grew up in Lagos, Lagos, Nigeria. We lived in Lagos. I'm the first of four. I'm the only girl. So I was literally like my mom's Moreni KG. So Moreni KG is like somebody that is like me because we were literally the only
Second,
second woman
yeah,
in the house. Um,
yeah.
but even outside of that, I remember. So our relationship was, for the most part, she was a stay-at-home mom, though she had like her own business. So she was always with us. So school runs, every other thing, taking care of us, madrasa and everything. She was always with us. So then there was also the bit of where she was really hands-on. So like education, whatever we needed to grow, she was always there. Um, but in terms of like mother-daughter relationship, it was okay as well. I'm tired. It was okay as well. So we we had that mother Yoruba mother and daughter relationship. So
Mhm.
I think for most.
What exactly is a Yoruba mother-daughter relationship? I want us to
So
dive into
yeah. So it's from a point of, I'm going to tell you what you should do and what you should not, or what.
don't question
No,
me.
exactly. Like, yeah, this is what you should do. This is what you should not do, kind of stuff. So it's not. You don't have to. Like, there's no what if. No, this is what you should do, and this is not what you should do. And I think the kind of child I was as well, I wasn't rebellious, which I think
Mm,
is not necessarily because of the way we were brought up, but personally, I was not just rebellious. I didn't go through any rebellious teenage phase or whatever. So I always had it at the back of my mind that
you think that is your mom going to agree if I ask her
I
this
think
this
she
question?
would. I think she actually says it a lot that I didn't I want to say the Yoruba, I don't know the English word. I didn't damua. What's the Yoruba?
You stress
I
her
didn't stress
basically.
her basically. Yeah, exactly.
You had your head screwed on right as a
Yeah.
kid.
But
Yeah.
I think what was the driver of that was that because growing up there was already that don't do this, don't do that kind of stuff. So for don't do this, don't do that kind of stuff. So it was always, whenever I found myself in that situation, it would be like, okay, if I do this, will my mom be happy knowing that I'm doing this? Or if I do this, will my mom approve of me doing this? So that was always kind of like one of the driving factor of if I wanted to do things. And again, I didn't move with like the rebellious teenagers. I was very selective about my kind of friends as well. I think that kind of helped me. So all alone, I think it was good. I turned out to be the best daughter for her. So yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. How about you? How was your relationship?
Honestly, like for the early part of my life, I would say 0 to 12. Whenever my mom was just like this behind the scenes authority figure in my mind, because um she was a very busy woman. She had her own like salon business. If you know what salons are like in Nigeria, they actually work till late. Fortunately for my mom, we lived in an area where our sister, like our
Oh,
own mom, grandma were not too far off from. So even in our early years, when we would come back from school, we'll get to our grandma's shop, and then in the evening, my dad would be coming back from work, pick us up there, and like take us home. Or sometimes, if my mom was ready to leave our workplace, like we'll pick her up as well. So early part of my years were marked with mostly my dad
mm,
being the present parent.
mhm.
And in fact, I used to see my mom as then if she was in the kitchen and trying to get us to come stop watching TV and help her, my sister and I used to be like super resentful, like, don't let me watch TV or let me stay with my dad. It's so cool, right? So that's what I'll say. Early years, I felt like my dad was, the cooler parent. And it wasn't even just in letting us do cool stuff. Like, literally, we'll
Because you
hang out.
saw him more sort of.
And I felt like he would even have conversations with us, like, mini adults, and what do you think?
Mm,
So my dad was an electrical engineer, and there were some times where he would have like designs of stuff, and
mm.
he would be showing me like, oh, this circuit, this is a. I was like, oh, why not do it like this? And as it, so I think my dad died when I was like 12 or something. So imagine the
Okay.
depth of conversation we were having. And so, may Allah
I
forgive him.
mean, I mean,
I really still remember my dad strongly from back then. Another thing I remember is when it comes to religious obligations, my dad was the pillar in the house. So we everyone up, my dad didn't want us to go to the general madrasa because it was at night. So
Mhm.
he actually commissioned an ustaz to come be teaching us at home or sometimes at my grandma's shop, as I said, in the afternoon. So very strongly from right on, like my dad treated us like, reasoning humans, and he was a strong role model in terms of like Islam and Islamic duties. Even Ramadan is still such a big thing for us
Mhm.
now because of back then. I would say after my dad died, I got to see a side of my mom that is very like different. So my dad dying really hit my mom a lot. So I would say like the first 2, 3 years after his death were literally our existing in like a zombie like mode. As a matter of fact, like we had to have like other people moving with us. My mom was in a world of her own. Alhamdulillah, she got back to
Mhm.
herself and started picking the pieces together. And it was really interesting to see her go through a transformation phase of like, how do I even step up more to be able to take on these 4 kids I have? How do I step up more to take on my responsibility as, because she took my dad's mom as even literally our own mother, right? So how do I keep showing up for this woman the way that our son used to? And so she took on a lot of different roles. Like when I think the hustle comes from a lot from my dad, but also strategic of my mom, right? Not only that, she grew leaps and bounds like Islamically. My mom and God, they're like literally like this. It was so interesting seeing that growth. I would say we never really had issues, or I particularly never had any issues with her beyond the normal, like sometimes they talk at you, you want to talk back.
Yeah.
Grandparents don't like you talking back, and we can come back to that because
Yeah.
I think that's one of my biggest growls with them in that, like, sometimes literally they will be wrong or someone else will be wrong, but just because they are older or something, like,
Mhm.
you are not allowed to say someone is wrong just because you're a kid. And we are still going to come back to
So
it. But
okay,
anyway,
I just a mini teaser. So raise your hand if your mom has ever beaten you for something she did but blamed you for that happening. So I'll give you an example of maybe she was in the kitchen and probably she had called you before and you took a while to answer and she was about to maybe take a hot plate from the stove or something and then it burnt her a little. Did you raise your hand if you ever gotten beaten from that? Because she's like, if you had come when she had called you, that probably wouldn't have happened and she wouldn't have gotten burnt. So
I feel like a lot of people will be able to
yeah,
relate.
raise their hands on that. So
Not me. I feel like everything I've done. If
nah,
my mom really gets that angry at me, because she wasn't a big fan of like,
beating.
yeah,
Uh,
that's one thing I'll give them. But
no, no,
the few times that I got into trouble, it was clearly like, no,
you
I
were
was,
wrong.
or maybe I can't remember. Maybe I blocked the memory.
So
I guess we have a story
no,
in
no, no.
that
Yeah, I just wanted to also write on how you like the relationship you had with your dad. So my dad was always working, and so Saturday and Sundays were usually times when he gets to spend with us like properly, and I particularly have fond memories of Sundays in our house because that was when We Want to Be a Millionaire was still a TV show then, so watch We Want to Be a Millionaire together, like him basically challenging us to answer even some of the questions on the show. Then we used to have this mental sum game kind of thing where it
Mhm.
would just randomly say one number plus one number, and whoever got it first would get biscuit or something. Yeah,
I
so
love it.
I
I
had
love
like
it.
fond memories of that.
Fond
Yeah, I
memories.
think that
Yeah.
that helped a lot in terms of like in terms of sharpening our brain, because most times people always ask my mom like what's she doing differently with our kids and all of that, and she's just like, yeah, it's God.
I don't,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's God.
I know, like it really shows when you like go the extra mile with
Mm-hmm.
kids. I remember there's a story my mom tells her, like when I was like 2 or so, like I was already writing up and down, like even before I entered, like they literally had to take me to school because I was already writing stuff around the
Yeah.
house. And then she always said that people ask her clients if I was just playing and I was talking to them. Sometimes I would speak Yoruba, sometimes I would speak English, and they were like amazed. "Oh, how is this girl talking so early, speaking flawless English?" I know the English is not flawless. That happens. Flawless English, flawless Yoruba, and like and my mom was like, she too, she doesn't know that
Mm,
they are just like that. So, but it's not random. Those things are actually because I think my parents were always talking to us like
yeah.
full blown adults. We were being encouraged to even like
Mm-hmm.
participate. It's not the one that you go and sit in one
Yeah.
corner or they'll say keep quiet, don't talk. Like
Yeah.
please talk to your kids. Like I don't have kids yet, but I think those things really, really, they really, really make a difference. Anyway, one thing I'll say in addition, like my relationship with my mom is the older I got, the more it felt like I understood her more.
Hmm.
And it just, I'm a mommy's girl, like even together. I mean, I have no one else, but it's like even when we would offend her or do something,
Yeah, mommy's girl. Just to, how often does your mom call you? So we know who is that title.
what do you mean? What do you
How often?
mean?
Like no, like how often? How I want to see if there's anybody out there, because there was a time when, especially when I was in uni, I was like, why? My mom calls me every single day, and I'm not exaggerating.
Tell you that we are going to win this because
Every single
so
day.
my mom is super like she does this thing where, oh, okay, I know you are going to work, I know when you are coming back, so I'm not going to call you during this time. I've told her that please, if you need, just call me anytime, it's fine. So I've actually made it a point that on some of my breaks, like
You
when
call
I
her.
call her and we just chat. But my mommy, we talk every week. Let's put it that way. Definitely not winning
If
in
she
this.
if she doesn't call me, she's going to send a message. I remember then when I first got to, so in at home, I grew
Yeah,
up. I didn't go to boarding school. I went to day school.
just a day. So
So it was
yeah.
when I left for pre-degree that was like the very first time I was away from her. And I remember it was always like annoying to me because I'll be in the midst of my friends and we'll just be talking, and next thing my mom is calling and I'll be like, okay, my mom is calling me. The next day we'll be talking again and my phone ring. My mom is calling me. So at a point I was like,
You
what?
develop the
Yeah,
reputation, like
exactly. Like
from there.
exactly. Like your mom is always calling you kind of stuff. But I think the more I grew, I kind of understood where she's coming from, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I mean, I think I wander around.
Yeah, that make it
I
easy.
mean,
So I guess like, do you remember any time where like you kind of had a misunderstanding with your parents? Not your mom particularly this time. Maybe just something that they didn't quite understand. Like, what was it? How did you navigate it? Or any tense sort of situation? Like, I'm just curious.
nah, I don't think so.
Mm,
So nah, I don't think so. But I think I remember early on, I started to stand my grounds on certain things. So like,
mm,
you had mentioned earlier that most Nigerian parents, you dare not kind of like talk back or like
yeah.
confront them. But I remember from like 15 or 16, I would tell my dad that no, this thing that you're saying, no, it's not
Mm,
me. Like, this is not, I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to tell you what I'm not going to do, kind of stuff. My dad would just be, okay, when you go to work, you will not do what I asked you to do. That kind of, I'm like, no, bro, I'm not doing it. But, I mean, yeah, we kind of found that balance, but it didn't necessarily turn into, and because, again, like, when he also goes back to think about why I'm standing my ground, like, he tends to understand where I'm coming from. So, I think we
mhm,
found that middle ground, and I think they understood me and they allowed me to do my things basically. Again, I wouldn't have come to that conclusion if I didn't. I would have given much thought to how this thing would affect them or what they would think about it even before
mhm.
I come to that conclusion. So I don't think there was necessarily any tense, like, yeah,
Yeah.
like tense. No, I don't think so.
Interesting. Like every time that I think I've had, not tense, just like something I don't agree on with someone, it almost always involves an external person.
Ah,
It almost always involves, okay, just apologize or just be quiet. Don't say anything because I don't want you to get into trouble,
mm,
like externally. I'm trying to paraphrase here because some of these things are like super personal, but imagine maybe a situation with more extended family
mm,
members.
mm,
If you know anything about Yoruba people, like literally, they will blame the mother for
yeah,
any mistake the child makes,
yeah.
especially in a situation like mine where there is no father figure.
Mm,
And do you understand what I mean? So I remember a lot of my mom's issue with me or my sister early on when we're teenagers, particularly, is okay, just apologize to this person
mm,
to let it go. Or we are going to this situation. Don't say anything. Just zip your mouth. And for me, I've always been someone who I don't believe that because you're young, you cannot say someone
Pick
else
up.
is wrong.
Mhm.
If you know anything about how, again, Yoruba parents are, or generally, it's like if you're older, you literally cannot be wrong. And even if you are wrong, the younger one will apologize. And me, I'd rather choke than apologize. Like,
Mhm.
literally. So sometimes my mom will just be like, okay, for my sake. And my mom knew the weakness of me and my sister in the sense that you just need to talk to us. You know, there are some kids that talking doesn't get anywhere with them, but you just sit me down or sit my sister down and line up our lives history
I
for us.
know. Yeah.
Remember when we just start crying and the next thing we falling in line.
Yeah.
So in a way, like I think she didn't like to pull that card often, but that's what she did in most cases. I'll be like, okay, remember your dad was really big on family. Remember this? I'll be like, okay,
Okay.
okay,
Okay.
I will apologize. And in retrospect, like my mom was just doing whatever she could to protect us from a lot of different things, right? May Allah protect us all,
I
but
mean,
this life is beyond what we see. There's unseen stuff, and you really don't want your kid to be labeled the bad kid. You don't want your kid to be labeled like the black sheep of the
mhm.
family. So sometimes you have to. So I would say, like, most times when my mom and I have like clashed or disagreed with one another, it's not something with us. It's like
Give us an
a
external party. Mm,
situation she wanted to diffuse something on.
yeah.
So I mean, it sounds like we were one of the lucky ones where like our parents were there for us. They
Mm,
did the very good. They were talking to us like, paddy paddy. They call us, they check us. What do you think that people who don't have this kind of luxury, like we all have friends, we all know people that are from different
mhm.
dynamics. How do they navigate a scenario where like the parent is just literally toxic? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's an unfortunate situation to be in. I pray that anybody that is in that Allah helps them to get out of it. But I mean, from the people that I've spoken to on how it happened, I think there's a bit of where when they are younger and when they are older and they can make decisions and also think for themselves. So
Mm.
it's a different case when you're younger and like these are literally the first set of people you have contact with. Like you've not seen the world. Like this is just the ideal for you. So it's and you're wondering, you're questioning why this has to be. But then as you grow older and you get to interact with people, you get to see what is obtainable elsewhere. I think that's where you can start to make that decision for yourself on how you want to be, like what you want to how you want to get yourself out of that situation, quote and unquote, and how you
Mhm.
also want to be such that in the future, probably when you also become a parent, you don't fall into that. I've had cases of people that they've come from the not so rosy family
Mm.
background and everything, and it didn't necessarily affect them, their upbringing. Yoruba would say, um, Toba Bion, Kenyan be like when they give it to you, you can also rebet yourself. Like you also
Yeah.
redefine.
Meaning you choose your
Yeah,
own
you
path,
choose your own
right?
paths, right? Yeah. So and I know it's not my place to say on how the background or how the initial years would have shaped people because it probably had shaped somebody else really bad. Like some
Mm.
people have even sworn off, no, they will never ever get married because they can't bear to see the possibility of them going through divorce because their parents probably went through divorce and all of that. And that's kind of like shaped their ideology about life. But I think, yeah, maybe society also has to come in some
Mhm.
cases in trying to like mend or help those situations where it's not just what it is supposed to be. And at the end of the day, these kids are like sponges and they're absorbing what they see. So it's better to shield them or to guide them and to help them to navigate that situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, maybe in Nigeria there isn't like a strong social like security system
Mm.
or what is like. I don't even know if we have foster homes, if they are
No.
like but like I would say that if the situation is still a case where your parents just are very rigid, it's not like they are being abusive or
Mm-hmm.
to that level. Like literally, the best way to handle these things is like have like that external support. Otherwise, you're just going to run like
Yeah.
exactly. And it's particularly difficult when you are dependent on them for like food, sustenance, all of that. So everyone who is in such situation will know pretty much what situation they're in.
Mm.
You know, if your parent is just a little bit rigid in terms of some things and you're like, okay, let me manage myself
Oh,
for the
it
meantime,
is. Yeah.
grow up soon anyway, or it's like they are seriously like abusing you, like beating you, or like you understand the levels,
Mm-hmm.
right? So hopefully we don't have people that are actually in the like lower bucket of the situation. The other one is the one I would say like making stuff get escalated
Mm.
is a no. Like, you don't really want to engage people that you know that oh it will turn into a shouting match. You want to be like going back and forth with your parent. No. Um it's also in, as you said, like choosing that okay, this thing that my mom did to me on this date, like me, I'm even very detailed to
Mm-hmm.
that level. I'll write that thing down, be like, I don't want to ever do like or this thing that this person did to me. I don't want to ever make this mistake to
Mm-hmm.
someone else. How it felt, right? Choosing to actively be better. That being said, right, like there will come a time where we're getting older, they're getting older, matter will come up,
Yeah.
right? Like I think it's fair to have these conversations and raise it with them and be like, no, not on a fighting level. More like, oh, just mom, do you remember this day that you did something like this? And it really hurt me. Like, it really just talked to me. And because of it, X, or because of it, Y. And you'd be surprised by the response. one of the things I'll credit a couple of the parents, at least in my circles, is that they seem to have realized that life is actually evolving. They can evolve with it.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
some of them are actually admitting some of the things that they
Mhm.
didn't do well. Oh, I could have done this better. And I'm like, wow, really?
Yeah.
So don't underestimate the ability of people to evolve and change. And if something really still bothers you from when you were 18, when you're 16 or 15, you can actually discuss it with them.
Mhm.
You are not going to fight them because ultimately, like, this is your family. Like,
Yeah.
all things being equal, you are not trying to tear like family ties. What you're trying to do is talk things out, heal from those things that are still there, and become better.
Ta-
May Allah make it easy.
I mean, talking of growing up and evolving, is there something that you grew up not like telling yourself you didn't like to do, or you were never ever going to do it, that in retrospect you think it was just an influence of because your mom or your dad didn't like this?
Hmm. This one is a difficult one for me because I
It doesn't
always
have
been
to be
very
like deep. I can give you an example of mine, maybe to be able to shift your question.
okay. What?
Never have I ever thought that I would grow up to be somebody that lives with a cat. Because
Mm,
my mom listens to our podcast, by the way. She's following us on TikTok.
hey, your mom is on TikTok. Oh,
Never have I ever thought that I would live with a cat because my mom grew up, or we grew up with that cat phobia because my mom didn't like cats.
tell them the root of the cat phobia. Don't you guys remember? Like, there's some Nollywood old movie
Yeah, exactly. So that
like this. There's one named literally
Olongo
Olongo Yadi,
Yaje, yeah,
like the cat, the old witch's cat. Or
yeah.
something.
So
Guys, these movies were traumatic. We had no business
watching
watching this.
those movies, but yeah,
Honestly,
but on your point on evolving, so I remember for like 2 months or 3 months after we had gotten Tarek, like I didn't mention it to my mom and my husband came
right?
because
What were you thinking she would say?
one, I knew she didn't like cats, so not necessarily she was definitely not going to say why am I getting a cat. I mean, I'm already in my house, so you cannot come and meet me in my house for getting a cat. But like I didn't want that whole conversation on why did you get a cat, why are you living with a cat, all those blah 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 blah. That was what I thought she was going to say. But then I think like 3 months in, then there was just one day we were on a video call and Tariq was passing in front of me. I just thought, let me just tell this woman that I have a car. So I carried Tariq and I showed Tariq on the camera.
Yeah,
And she goes,
yeah.
wow. I'm saying this in English. It was definitely Yoruba that you have a cat. Oh, that's nice that she has even had the benefits of having a cat in the house. Like
And you were like,
then she started mentioning one of her friends that has a cat in the house, and I'm like, sorry, am I talking to my mom? Is this my mom at this point? Because that was literally a different reaction that I thought I would get, and that was so. To your point on growing and evolving, is another thing that I've done that I know my mom would never like. I thought I would never ever do because of my mom. I know she's listening to this. Maybe she would. I don't know if she would listen, but I would definitely not put this in the magic clip. So yeah, it will be the skydiving. If my mom knows on this day that
Mariam,
I'm
honestly,
skydiving
I'm
before,
on your mom's side with that one. Like, honestly, like anything that will take my feet off this
no,
they play. I'm not
I'm
skydiving.
exactly.
Hey,
So I'm waiting for when she comes to visit. I would play the video.
I'm going
I
to
want to see our face to face reaction if I tell her that. But yeah, on your point on growing and evolving, like I think so again to the point on finding yourself even outside of whatever it is you grew up with your parents, and
yeah.
also like being open to knowing that your parents are not like they are also humans, right? I think that's one point.
Girl, yeah, I realized. There's something my mom used to say, like when she was kind of working after, like she went back to
Mm-hmm.
work after all that thing, and sometimes she'll come back and me, my sister, my brother were like, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, mommy." She'll just say she'll tell us that one day she will run away, and I don't have kids yet, but the day I understood was I had a really long day at work
Mm,
one day, and I got home. I was just so exhausted, And I think I told my husband that, imagine if there was like two
Anyone
kids
kids there?
fighting for you to give them
The
attention.
attention.
And I was like, no, on this day, I understand my mom, where she had four different kids shouting, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, this happened, that happened," and the poor woman just wanted to rest.
And
Like,
there's also that society expectation that they have to show up every time, every day, which is why I'm liking like this whole new conversation around there should be mommy time. Like I should be able to, I should be able
absolutely,
to take time off without having mom guilt that my
yeah,
kid is somewhere. Yeah, so I think I'm liking this the way parenting is going these days. So yeah, they are like buzzwords around intentional parenting, gentle
you know,
parenting, like
yeah,
all those different buzzwords. So yeah, I think it's also interesting to see how that is trending and shaping out to be.
yeah. What were your parents' reaction to like your career choice? What you wanted to do? Like,
So we always grew up with that mindset of like education is literally like the way. Like if you want to be
uh-huh.
rich, like you have to be educated. You have to be educated to get a living. So it was always a given that my parents were very supportive, even on the days when we had little. My mom and my dad would literally spend their last card on buying us textbooks or any other thing school related than to maybe go for a friend's party where they would buy clothes. Like education was that paramount to them. In fact, I remember
Yeah.
for my mom used to be someone that had a lot of friends, and I remember her going to having just one or two friends because she deprioritized.
Wasn't happening again.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
She prioritized all of that. She wasn't buying clothes, buying whatever. She was literally spending money on our kids. Uh so we grew up with that mindset. So there was always the expectation that we're going to get a job and get good living and all of that.
So there was
Yeah.
no like
I
pushback
think
on what.
the bits where for me personally it started to be a thing of concern for them was the point when I decided to start using the hijab. So um
Hey,
yeah,
yeah. So I think we alluded to this
yeah,
a bit
yeah.
last episode.
So
Yeah,
yeah, I remember. So bless my dad, he did not come out saying why
he
you
didn't say it
wearing
straight.
why are you
It
wearing
was
hijab like yankee stuff or something. So okay,
mhm,
you started with cap. I see you're using cap. Yes,
good girl,
good.
good
I
girl.
mean, Muslim, like if you're a good Muslim lady, you're going your way, doing everything.
I'm not doing too
Yeah,
much.
but I think where it started to be concern for him was when I then moved to the like hijab proper away from the cap. He didn't have issues with the cap then because the Muslim working women in Nigeria then were people on cap. And you even
Tie
had
like
you had
turban
organizations
style.
saying we won't allow this, but we allow the head tie. So
Yeah,
then when that happened and knowing his kind of child that was the super high achiever, he was worried on some fronts that would this like this is what I would like. And
it's
again,
a bit at odds with
yeah,
this
and
girl.
Muslim women didn't have that good PR that time. So you had people that
We think we've been in the
yeah,
trenches.
you had
Yeah,
people that
hey
would
God.
literally go from being very good, then once they start covering, it's either they end up in one man's house, one Afa's house, and all of that. So he was worried on that front, and I remember him just making like subtle conversations on,
Find out
yeah,
what's
like
going
okay, what exactly is your
on.
plan? How are you going to navigate this? But I remember
Yeah,
I always like told him, and that was also like I think I mentioned it in one of the episodes, like the reassurance to myself that so far I show up being the best at whatever it is I'm doing, I feel Allah is going to provide that way for me.
yeah.
And yeah, so that was basically, I think that was the only bit where he had.
It's interesting. Do you think that there's a part of our parents where, bless their hearts, their level of Islamic knowledge were just limited to a certain point, right?
I won't say it was limited to a certain point. I would say it was a function of the scholarly knowledge they had. So
Hmm.
so there's this thing where there's one ustaz that used to say things around there's Islam and there's Yoruba level Islam.
See, may Allah
May
forgive
Allah
us.
forgive
Hmm.
us, right? Yeah, but I think that was the level of their own knowledge. So they just felt, if I do XYZ, that's enough for me to be a Muslim. So it was, and that was what was communicated to them, like in terms of
I
the,
just need to do
yeah,
this
I just need to
bare
do this thing
minimum.
and
They did not see it as like a way of life, which is what Islam is essentially.
exactly. So
It was just a thing that you opt into X, Y, Z. If you go beyond this level, then you are now going to extremist or
yeah,
something. Yeah.
and they, I think I also want to mention, I think there's a bit of where, because of how I grew in Islam, I feel my parent also grew with me. There are some things that my dad grew into. Like I mean, I definitely saw that grow. Even my mom as well. There were some, this asala, again, Yoruba level asala too. Like, she was now very conscious about the kind of gatherings she go to, kind
Mm-hmm.
of associations she attends, like
Yeah.
even this type of sermon she listened to. Because I remember there was one time, there was one our father came to our church.
Controversial.
Yeah, like, so all those controversial Yoruba level again. I think there was that bit of when I, like, as I was growing, I feel they were also growing with me, and I was sort of a role model to them even at that point.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
You know, the funny thing is that these parents of ours, they will pray that, oh, they want their kids to be better than them.
Yeah.
So why
Why?
when you suddenly grew closer to God, so some of your prayers is what's getting answered. Oh.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
the
not
same way
the
we would also pray that Allah grant us with kids that would
mm-hmm.
be better than us, that would
Apples and
even be
apples.
like, yeah, good ambassadors of the deen. So if
Yeah,
you're,
yeah.
yeah, so
No, no shaking, no shaking.
yeah.
Yeah, may Allah make it easy for us. Honestly, what is something you would love to tell your mom and dad? Like, just anything that comes to your mind. And you said your mom listens to the podcast. So just imagine she's in front of you and you want to hear her tell.
um, I mean, to your point on, you had mentioned that now there are some things that when you think back, you now get it. I think I now get it now. Um,
So what's the thing you're getting
so
on?
I now get why, I now get that motherly. So I mentioned she's always calling me every now and then.
Mariam, this one you're getting the
No,
motherly.
no. No, I'll give you an example. I remember the very first time we traveled, well, so after we got Tariq. And I think also on some level as well, like getting a cat kind of also, I don't know, it's,
Think the
yeah,
preview
like,
of
yeah, like that motherly instinct is just there. So no. But I remember the first time we dropped Tariq off because we were going on vacation, and I remember the days leading up to that. We would just be joking in the house that, hey, we will leave Tariq, hey, we'll leave Tariq, and all of that. So that's maybe like a glimpse of what mom guilt would be. And I remember when
mm,
when we dropped him off, I was always texting the person we dropped him off with that, has he eaten? Yeah, he does not like his food this way. He likes whatever this way. And all that. So when I was doing that, then my husband said to me that day that, is this not
look at
exactly
you.
what your mom
Running into your
says?
mom.
So I think, what if I would say to them now is, I think I get it. Maybe I would not be the mom that calls every day. Maybe every weekend would be fine. But I think I get it, and I didn't appreciate it then. Not like I didn't appreciate it then. I wasn't appreciative of it then, but I think I'm appreciative of it now when I think about it in hindsight. How about
Mm.
you?
No, you've not spoken to your dad. I don't want people to come and tell me
Ah.
that it's only
No,
mother.
to my dad, I think I would say in the time and age when we had, so in the time and age when we had, like, I don't know if there's a statistics to it, but like
Plenty fathers.
many of the men that were probably deadbeat fathers or absent fathers.
Oh, actually, deadbeat is the word.
Yeah, maybe like, yeah, and absent fathers. I think I'm grateful that he showed up, and he was present, because when I talk to people, and I feel like my growing up family dynamics just kind of shielded me away from like the
The
happening, the
couple.
what the happening. Because when I hear other people talk about like how they grew up and how their relationship with their father, like I call my dad by his name when I talk to him on the phone. Like,
Mm,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
you.
Like, I can do that. I can literally, like, I can talk to you like I'm talking to my G.
Yeah,
And then I
that
see somebody else talking to their father, and maybe even on the phone, they are literally doing, oh,
oh my
yes, sir.
god.
Yeah,
You
like
know, like,
shaking.
I forgot to mention, do you know this thing where the daddy comes and everybody
Everybody runs
disappears?
away. Now, we didn't have
It's
that.
never been, yeah. I've always like seen it as like an external thing. Like there was a time I went to live with other people, the dynamic was so different because I remember then when our own dad would come back, we like be rushing to climb him, be like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you get yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah, so I mean, I think yeah, that would be that. I'm grateful that he was a very good father and he provided that opportunity for me to see what being a good father was. Because now
Mm.
the standard for my husband,
And you won't demand
yeah,
more because yes,
exactly. So
yes,
I'm like, I know in my own house,
you
this is how
have
the
to
daddy
go.
used to do. So you
Yeah,
have to, you have
exactly.
to be
Yeah.
more over and above. So yeah, I think that would be what I would say.
Honestly, yeah, I think I echo everything. I mean, may Allah forgive the people that
um,
are gone,
um,
and accept all their good acts and like forget all the bad ones. My dad really laid a good example
mm,
for like solid Islam.
mm,
Like down today, I can never not remember my dad.
mm,
Also, when it comes to like family, like my daddy loved to have like kids around, and I remember my cousins
mm,
like they would literally be in our place for the most part, like my two cousins. Till now, I say the reason why we're close is because of that. Like we literally all grew up together. Um, and it's so sad that we got to spend little time with him. Sometimes I think that, on my wedding day, what would my dad have been like? Because it was
mm, mm,
typical, like, party
mm,
popper. Like, I think about it that even now, like, when I hear people talk about their dad, I'm like,
mm.
oh, Allah knows best
Yeah,
anyway.
may Allah continue to,
But
guide us all, and may Allah grant him a Jannah Firdaus.
I mean, so for my mom, look like may Allah continue to bless me. Literally, it's just getting started
Well,
for her. Yeah, that's my promise. Because even now, like our relationship is very deep to the extent that most of my moves, she knows
mm,
them. Like, that thing where people say, "Oh, they are not going to tell their parent they are doing
mhm,
X, doing Y." In me, I'm going somewhere 1 month. I've already told her,
yeah,
please be praying for me ahead of when I'm going to, because she knows all my moves.
mhm,
I go to my mom for advice. Like sometimes, like when I was in my last role, there was a time I got the opportunity to leave. And people will not think that, oh, you talk to your parents about this. I literally talked to her like, what does she think?
mm,
This is the situation. This is the like trade off. And she was like, I think you should do this. What she was thinking, I was thinking it. Someone else completely else. And it all
align.
aligned. And my mom understands me. She knows what drives me. So
Mhm,
she's giving me tip top advice, not just from perspective of, oh, the next thing, but how I'm feeling internally. So, I mean, mom, me, I love you. I know you love me. Allah continue to bless you, keep you happy, grant you many, many more years, with us in enjoyment, in good health, in good wealth. And yeah, let's keep the good stuff going.
I mean,
Is there anything we missed that we should talk about? I feel like this was very tilted towards good PR. But you know what? I don't hate it because it's outside there's a lot of bad stuff,
mm,
and sometimes we need to amplify the good stories. And sometimes we need to amplify the good stories not just for ourselves but for people that have no idea how good it can get.
yeah,
Like you can absolutely be friends with your
yeah,
parents as time goes on. Yes, there might be times where it seems like they don't understand, but there are ways to navigate it. And I always tell the younger ones that as long as you can contextualize that your parents don't hate you, they want the best for you.
and they are
Some of
also
them,
humans. Like,
they are
not like
humans, like they're literally winging it. Like
exactly.
there's no manual, there's no manual. This is why often you find this pattern of like, oh, the last ones get better side
Because
of them.
they've grown with.
Like they created like okay, this work, this is not what okay. Literally, like our last one is even like my mommy's like that one is at the most. So what are we even saying? So literally they are getting better over the years. And when you think of them as like they are human, they are not like infallible. They can make mistakes.
Yeah.
You you tend to be a bit like go easier on them. So if you think about it that way, some of their decisions, will make sense to you, and you be a bit kinder to them. Obviously, like, we don't condone abuse or anything on this podcast. Absolutely, if it's terrible with them, like, there are bodies out there that help people um to walk through these kind of situations, and may Allah make it easy for us. One thing I'll say to the parents too, eh, eh, are not a mini you. Like, literally, they might look like the spitting image of you, but we are actually our own. Like,
Personality, person.
your kid might be completely different from you, and so it would do
But
parents
that's
good to.
scary, you know.
Yes, and I understand, right? And maybe we are going to revisit this
Yeah.
conversation when I'll be like, actually, we were talking nonsense
You're
then,
saying the nonsense.
we were talking nonsense. But, like, as of now, like, parents really need to see that the world has really evolved
Mm-hmm.
from what it was before. There are so many things that you need to protect your kids from.
Yeah.
That means you have to have a relationship with them. Like, if you don't, your kid's going to be someone else, like, completely
They
different.
would learn
And
from outside, so to
they will
say.
learn from out
Yeah.
exactly. So I think parents need to invest in, again, not just being seen as the authority. Yes, to a certain level, you're the authority in the house, right? Like, you're responsible, but let your kids be secure enough in your
Mhm.
relationship to be able to talk to you about things, because things are happening out there. We can't see everything on this
Yeah.
podcast, or so many things online, so many ways that kids can get radicalized. May Allah make it easy for us. So
Mm.
please, parents, it's not all the time you be strong in face, strong in head. Not the one that you also come inside, all the kids will run away because
Anyway.
daddy and mommy has arrived, lion has entered.
Yeah.
Please, let's try to mend our relationship with the kids, and invest in knowing them really as people, so that even as they grow older, the relationship becomes richer, and it's
Yeah,
like,
looks at that.
"Hey, hi, baby T."
Yeah.
Mariam, any last words? Any last
No, I
words?
think you already covered it. I mean, I echo what you said. And also in the light of today's buzzwords around intentional parenting and gentle parenting and all
Yes.
the parenting
Mm-hmm.
and parenting, so we need to actually do better than our parents did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, may Allah make it easy for us.
Yeah.
Grant us kids that will be the coolness of our eyes, because it's a
Hi.
burden on its own to be.
Please. May Allah not test us
Yeah, not
either way.
excess beyond
You
what we
know?
can bear. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, I would say that, like, it's very important to pray for our
Mm,
parents, right? Like, living, dead, pray for them. You know, everything you wish, like, they could have done better. Note it down, so that you too in the future, if you
yes.
decide to become a parent, exactly, and reflect a lot on your relationship with your parents as a part of your own self healing and growth. Like, some people really resent their parents for
Mm,
certain stuff. If you don't, like, go back to dig through it, like, and understand, okay, why am I still so angry? Or, is it because they didn't even understand what happened? They didn't show, like, we're sorry. Like, revisit those things, because all these things are going to come up in your own pattern to your kids, or not even your kids, your friends' kids,
yeah.
your siblings' kids. So even some people will say they don't want to have kids because kids will still be around you,
Yeah.
because literally other people
Would
will
have
have
kids.
kids.
Yeah.
Um, and please feel free to share your
Yeah.
stories of like earthwarming stuff of what your parents did well with
Your
you.
fondest
Um,
memory of them.
next
I remember
story.
Sundays when we used to go to it was called Savory. Like the Mr. Biggs and all of that. So we would go
Oh, don't
and
get me started.
yeah.
I always feel that there are some, all this, like, Isiewu,
Hmm?
Kobe,
No, that's on
night
another
food,
level.
Aku. My dad was like a connoisseur of all these things. So, head in our house, burgers, also
Oh,
eating out to me is like nothing
yeah.
because of. Ah, exactly. So honestly, guys, like, let's reflect, let's heal, let's approach our parents as human
Mhm.
beings, not just like figureheads in our lives. Feel free to share this with your younger ones, other people that you think might benefit from, like, just such positive
Yeah.
representation. And to our parents, like, we love you.
Mm,
Calm down, enjoy.
yeah.
Enjoy. All right.
Yeah.
I think we can.
Yeah, so guys, continue to listen to the podcast, share the podcast. Let us know what you think of the podcast, and till we come your way again. Ciao, bye.